that place of destruction, from that spirit of pride that can be so deceiving, amen, and deceptive. Because can you imagine, listen to this now, I was prophesied over a couple of years ago that people will be raised up from deathbeds because of the word that comes out of my mouth. Now what if that arrogant, the same arrogant, prideful spirit was alive in me when this young lady got raised up? How would I deal with that? My head would swell so big. I don't know if this room could hold it. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if I could stand here and very seriously say, thank God that his glory was fulfilled in an obedient servant's heart. Okay, that we were here for such a time as she needed us. Amen? So that this young lady could have been prepared with the word. She could have gone home and said it to somebody. And guess what? When people come and talk and, mess with your mind and so, what do? You have to still walk in humility, knowing that God is your God and there is nobody like him for you. And you're not the perfect, and you're never going to be totally perfect. But what do? You remember who God is. Amen? As I said, I was telling these guys yesterday that years ago when I worked for Chemical Bank, I managed a multi-billion-dollar facility. Okay, not only in New York, but I was one that would step back. As a matter of fact, one year in the 70s, we had a major power failure on the northeastern seaboard power grid. Okay, it started in Canada, and when the power failure, when the failure occurred in Canada, there was a cascade effect down through the northeastern seaboard, and all of New York got shut down. The company, like JPS, in New York, in the New York area, was Consolidated Edison. Consolidated Edison, we lost power. Wall Street was shut down. I don't know if you remember that. Everything was shut down. I managed the check and credit card operations computer facility in New York City for the number 5 bank in the world. Amen? And when we did that night, we lost the interest on the float of $1 billion US. When we looked at that, we decided, in my strategic study, I decided that we would present to our bank, okay, our chairman, would present to him a project that we would take the facility and we would break it into two. We would create another facility outside of the eastern seaboard power grid called Long Island, LILCO, the Long Island Lighting Company, and create a data center over there. So I ended up managing a couple of data centers and doing these kinds of things. So what am I saying? I'm saying that God has given us some abilities over the years. We moved. Anybody ever heard of Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York? Major cancer hospital. I worked with them. I planned the move of their computer facility from New York City into Dallas. Okay, actually floor plans, the technical layout of the facility, all of that we worked to develop this. Now, how many people have ever known that? Don't raise your hand. You don't know that those are the things that we have done. So then we come into Jamaica, and we are doing simple things, okay? What I consider simple things. Putting up some computers in a room and allowing kids to come in and use them. And we say, this is the way something ought to be done. Nobody ever knows that this is the kind of background that we have. Nobody ever knows the kind of dollars that we would make. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just doing these simple projects, okay? Well, they're not really simple projects, but moving major computer facilities across the United States. Planning the internetworking of facilities between the Middle East and America, and having to deal with time zone conflicts between Australia and, I mean, these are the kinds of things that we have done over the years. But I've never said it. Why? Because it's not really important. And so we sit down and we say, this is the way that we plan events. This is the way that we do things. And people are not comfortable with it because they say, who are you to come and tell us what to do? But then you see, when God has taken me through all kinds of hell and challenged me over the years, then I can sit back. And although we don't deal with everything exactly perfectly, I can sit back and I can say, Father, thank you. Amen. Thank you that you have brought us to a place where we are not rude and arrogant, where we are not the way that we were. We are not exactly where we ought to be. But thank God that we are where we are. As a matter of fact, I remember when I came to Jamaica, I sent out applications to all the major banking institutions in Jamaica. to say, this is what I used to do, and so on. And not a single one of them answered me. I said, what is this? I come with all these qualifications. I mean, I have BA in this. I have MBA in that. I have PhD in artificial intelligence and this and that. I said, nobody answered me. Now something wrong. You know what that did to me? For a moment, I said, no, there's something wrong here. Maybe I'm too this or maybe I'm too that. But you know, the Lord said something. He says, I didn't call you to be in business. You know, and so I just left it alone. Never, after that first set I sent out, never sent another one out. Never did another thing. And different people have called me and asked me to help them in various, projects and so on. And I've tried to help. I don't do a whole lot of it. The most of what I do right here in the church. And some churches that have asked me to help them, I've helped them. But the point is this. I have had, Winston Watson, I have had to come to a place. I was telling them this morning, and I'm telling you this so you understand the battlefield of our minds. Understand that where I'm starting from to teach this is not from you or from your perspective. I'm teaching this from the prideful platform that my life began so many years ago in New York City. The prideful platform that my life was lived in for the many years that I lived in the United States. I mean, I remember when I moved into a particular neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, we got there. I mean, we lived in a little apartment. I got to Tulsa to go to school, my wife and I, and we had boxes for bookshelves and a pallet on the floor and so on. And then, one day I got up and I said, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this apartment, and I'm tired of these boxes. I'm tired of sleeping on the floor. So I went and I bought a house. Okay, and we bought the largest house in the community. Okay. We bought the largest house with the largest swimming pool, okay, with all the fancy stuff. One of these days I'll show you some of the pictures. I mean, people envied us and wondered if we were into drugs. But guess what? I had worked a lot of money over the years. I wasn't worth a little bit of dollars, okay? And so we could buy this stuff and we could enjoy it. And actually we had people from the church, the kids would come over to from Sunday school, and we would enjoy it. And then the Lord said, I think you ought to give it up. My mortgage was $1,500 a month back in the 80s. You know that's a lot of money? Yes. This was back in the 80s, which means that I had money sitting there because I didn't have any job. So for the bank to authorize a loan for me with a mortgage of $1,500, I had to have some money sitting there, earning something, okay? But my attitude was wrong. When I walked into church, I didn't walk into church as some little low guy, sitting there. I wanted to write a check. I remember one day my wife wrote this thing about a check for $100,000. I said, you must be crazy. No, I'm not giving any church that kind of money right now. Because of my pride. Because of my attitude. But God had to say, listen, stop. You need to calm down. These things are not worth what you think they are worth. These things are not as important as you think they're important to your life. These things. So I came to Jamaica and I bought a Hyundai. Right, Brother Wayne? You remember that little green Hyundai? I bought a little Hyundai and I'm driving around. And people are looking at it. Oh, what a nice car. When I first got it, I said, oh, Lord, only you know. No leather, no phones. We had phones in our cars when phones were not popular. We had things, navigation systems in our cars when now people are excited about seeing this stuff. I had that stuff in the 80s, the late 80s. But here is the thing. God said, shut it down. You know why I'm not interested in that stuff now? Because I know they're worthless in the real scheme of things. I know the thing that is important to me is my relationship with my God. Because no matter where I am, no matter what resources I have, it is always God that has carried me through. Whether I have little bit, and that's how I know what the Apostle Paul meant when he says, I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. I know how it feels to have so much, and I know when I got to New York City as a little boy, I had nothing but a little